how things went well and how things got to get better, and that's just what it comes down to. And having Arthur's approach on this is going to be critical.
What do you like to tell the Ohio State fans about this year's edition of the team offense?
Well, I think, on offense, defense, and special teams, you always want to be complementary. I think you're going to see. I think that's more the art of college football than the NFL for two coordinators who have NFL experience, is adapting what they do to the players. And I think both Arthur and Matt have shown that they do that, at any level that they've coached. And so that's what we're going to do here. And there'll be some new faces out there, and that journey is going to get flushed out early on. We got some major tests. We got to play a tough road schedule, so we're going to get some early feedback. And then on special teams, Rob Disher comes in, and he's done a good job this spring of installing some of his thoughts and continuing with some of the things that we've done. So we'll play complementary football, and we'll see where this journey takes us. I mean, it's helpful if we win the dang games. You know what I mean? Like yeah, it's going to be great, but we got to win the games. And every game it's going to be on a line, and that's how it goes, and it's going to be a challenge, but that's the way you want it. And it's going to force us to get games into the fourth quarter, get comfortable winning games in the fourth quarter during the regular season, and then go from there. And so we have to be able to predict where the issues are going to be, and personnel-wise to put guys in a situation to be successful, and then we got to go put it on the field. And that's why you've heard me talk a lot about winning games in the fourth quarter this year, because we're going to be in those games in the fourth quarter, maybe more than we have been in previous years. But I think the positive is as long as you're winning those games, you're going to get more and more comfortable winning games in the fourth quarter the way we should. And what does that mean? Running the ball, stopping the run when you need to in the fourth quarter, and then having the confidence and courage to go win the game with the last play of the game, not worried about the fact that, maybe we should win a game by 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns. No, we just got to win these games by 1 point and feel comfortable winning them in the fourth quarter. So, I think that is going to, when you look at our schedule, it's going to play out that way. And certainly on the road. And these that first, game, or the game 2 at Texas is going to be a monster. That Iowa game on the road at Iowa, at Indiana. I mean, these environments are going to be really loud, and what a great way to challenge our guys and to get calloused and get tough and become road warriors early in the season. I mean, when you look at it the year before, the pace was very similar, and it won us a national championship. So to me, it's more about efficiency, but we also can't be stubborn. And we have to recognize that, if there's opportunities for us to change the pace of a game, then we're going to have to do that. But, you can't say it didn't work the year before, but it didn't work this year. So, and this is the whole key when you're chasing small margins, to identify what the real issue was. Was it really have something to do with the speed of play, or did it have other things come into play? And that's our job, to make sure we identify it. But as you can imagine, we've looked into all those things, and we're going to do everything we can. But it's also good to get an opinion and a perspective of someone like Arthur, who's coming from a completely different point of view. What do you think about this? And making sure that no stone's uncovered. No, we haven't talked about that yet. I don't see us changing much. I think that the way that it's structured right now probably fits who we are. We're going to get most of the freshmen and transfer guys in January. So because of that, we want to get on the field fast and get going. And then when you're practicing in spring practice, it allows you the most time to recover from injuries. So we're talking about how we had a couple injuries. Some of them were lingering from the season, but some of them actually happened in the spring. We're able to get those scoped out, get them fixed. And so the longer you wait on something like that, the more risk you run of not having a full summer or not being ready for preseason camp. So we'll probably keep it the same. Now, if the calendar were to change and the portal were to change, where guys who came in June, then now we'd have to think about how we're going to do it. But the way that it's set right now, the minute guys get in the building, we want to probably keep it the same way. But we'll have long conversations and find out what's right. You know, when on paper, when I first looked at it, I was like, that's a quick turnaround. But the truth is, the guys who did the majority of the playing in the playoffs, we sort of treated them a little differently. And then you have all these new guys that need the reps in a bad way, whether it was backups, whether it was new guys in the portal or freshmen, they need the reps. So we don't treat everybody the same. And then as spring goes on, we start to get them going more. And then as the summer, we'll have opportunities, it sounds like, to get them going. So I think we'll probably keep it. But to your point, we have to be smart with the guys that just got done with the season. Okay, what do you got?
How many teams do you think can actually compete for the national title? Not win it, but
That's a good question. I think probably realistically, year in and year out, I guess, 15, somewhere in there. I think when you look at last year, some of the guys who were right on the fence of getting in probably could have made a deep run. So my guess would be right around there, but it probably depends on the year. So we do a leadership committee every year. The team votes on a leadership committee in all different position groups. And then from there, we do a draft. We draft guys in different groups, skill, big skill, and then line. And then from there, we do mini squads. And the idea on that is that during the season, we do a lot of work with our units. But in order to build connectivity, we want to make sure that we have guys working with each other all season in different position groups, because we know adversity is going to hit. And when adversity does hit, we got to come together. And the only way to do that is to build a connected team. And so that's why so much of what we do in the summer is going to have an impact on how the season runs out. That's why I really say this is the backbone of our program, of what happens with Mick in the weight room during the summer. Well, I think from the moment Jeremiah stepped on campus, he had a mindset that he wanted to make an impact here. He already has done that. He was one of the only Iron Buckeyes as freshmen to walk into our program and then play as a freshman right from the jump. But that had to do with his approach. He was physically prepared, mentally prepared, emotionally prepared. And he's continued to do that as he's gone on. Now he's going into year 3, and I know he wants to be a 2-time national champion. He does not like to lose. He is a winner. And he's found his voice. Now, he doesn't do a lot of speaking to the team, but when he speaks, everybody listens. And I think he's seeing guys who are freshmen, young receivers in that room, some of which you probably know their names. And he's taken a more of a leadership role with them. But he gets it. He understands what it takes to win. He understands winning football. And for somebody who gets as much attention as he does, it's very easy for him to be selfish about touches and why is the ball not coming to me. But he looks at it from a bigger lens and a wider lens, and it says a lot about who he is as a player, and he is a leader. And now he's the elder statesman in the room, and everybody on that team is looking up to him. He has a certain level of respect nationally, from little kids to all the above, because of the way he plays, but most importantly in that locker room and on the team. So everybody's watching every move he makes, and he's going to have a big impact again on how we move forward. Yes, guys have to step up. Guys who are, into year, 4 and 5, gotta be able to have a voice, whether they like it or not. And he's done that. And Mick allows him the opportunity to do that during the season. And it's not going to be him. It's not going to be anybody. So, but he knows that, and he's been great. And I'm not saying that's easy for him, by the way. So feeling uncomfortable, physically and pushing themselves and living lives of discipline sometimes is uncomfortable for some people. But they don't stop talking. for Jeremiah, I think he's a little bit more comfortable living in that world and stepping outside his comfort zone and challenging guys and doing those things maybe a little bit outside of his comfort zone. But that's part of being a leader, and he's shown the courage to do that.
What's your perspective on some of these rules and those rules that might increase parity that's viewed as good for the greater football? Would that kind of parity, could that be good for Ohio State?
I guess it depends on what you're talking about, what type of, rules and things.
Salary cap, for example. Harder salary cap.
Well, I think we all would like to see more structure when it comes to, the salary cap and then, how things are handled above the salary cap, call it a soft cap. So I think if you're talking about that, yeah. Do I think the cap should be higher? Absolutely. So, what does that mean in terms of, parity and all that? I don't know, but I can tell you right now, we want to pay our players, and we certainly would like to see that cap go much higher.
How would you handle the offensive line tinkering whether that's Austin building a guard?
Yeah.
How will you know you have the right configuration when normally we're talking about quarterback?
Yeah.
When would you like to have that decided on the offensive line?
I mean, going into week, I don't know, let's say the 7, probably practice 9 or 10. We'd like to have that sorted out. Yeah. And a big part of that is going to be how Phil plays, how Josh plays, how Ian plays, because if that allows us the opportunity to move Austin, then we will. But the good news is we have some good options there. It's everybody. It's all those guys, because if all of a sudden, Phil or Ian give us some high level of play that we're seeing in practice, that gives us the opportunity to have some flexibility. If Josh is playing at a high level at guard, let's say, well, then we can keep Austin over here at left tackle. So we're going to play the best 5. Good news is we have some good options and some good experience. Well, if you look at the way it started and where it is now, every year it's I don't know the percentages, but it's exponentially gone up higher and higher. And anytime you have sort of an open market every year, you're going to see that go higher and higher. And so when you put a small cap on that, it makes it more and more challenging to compete and do things the right way.
You mentioned playing at Iowa. What do you remember about the last time that you were at Iowa, and what lessons have you learned from that experience that you want to impart on this team?
I've completely taken that out of my memory, that game at Iowa in 17. Yeah, that was bad. That was a very good team, great atmosphere. Coach Ferenc, I have as much respect for him as anybody in the country. They always are very, very well coached, have really tough players, and that crowd brings it. And it's going to be really loud, and that's going to be a challenge. I mean, that's the hardest place one of the hardest places to play in the conference for sure. So, we're going to have to bring it, and that's just one of the tough places we're going to have to play this year. And so I'm trying not to remember that game, but thanks for bringing it up. During the summer when these guys are working in June and July, they have a lot of time to hang out together. It's funny to hear the conversations that come up. Who's the fastest on the team, who's the toughest, who's the most resilient, and all these things. And the good news is what Mick does and the type of environments that he puts them in, he tries to create conflict. He tries to get these guys in a really tough situation, see how they're going to respond. We kind of call it the crucible, where all the impurities come to the surface. And so when you look at his history of developing quarterbacks, because so much of it you talk about, whether it's me, whether it's Ohio State, of developing quarterbacks, a big part of it is Mick and what he does in that weight room and challenging guys. And, you don't think about all the things that come with it, but let's just say, for example, we're leading some sort of, ab workout, and we're doing, 50 sit-ups. Well, he makes the quarterbacks scream out the commands. And when you first get there, if you're not somebody that's ever, barked in your life, you got to learn how to, carry your voice, and these guys nowadays just clap their hands. And then, he'll force them to get up in front of the group and say, this is why we're doing this. We have 50 days before we play the first game. We're doing 50 sit-ups today. And the first time they do it, it doesn't look very good. And he makes them do it again, and he makes them do it again, and he makes them do it again. And over time, they get callous to it, and they'll learn how to do that. And so that's, again, some of the things that he does, obviously, Mick. And that's why his value is so critical to what we do in this summer. And so I think Julian's taken strides in that area for sure. And how do you know? Because the guy's on the team, and his teammates talk about him that way. Yeah, well, every summer we get together, Mick and I, and we talk about what we want to get done for the summer. And that's a great meeting because he talks about what he wants to get done, in terms of strength and speed and power. And then, for me, it's a big part of it is, the messaging and what we want to get done as a team. And so we put these two together, and then we present it to our leadership committee, and they have some say in that. They get to, give us some feedback on if someone's late, what's the consequence, all these different things. And once we leave that meeting, then we go to the entire team, and we lay it out in front of the team. Here's the plan for the summer. And so the messaging this summer was pretty clear on what we wanted to get done. And we're reading the book Legacy. You guys have heard that before. That's our purpose. That's what we want to get. But we have to bring everybody together as one during the summer, because when you have that many new players, they don't understand yet. They don't know the brotherhood. So it's a race against time. So we find as many different ways as we can do that, whether it's reading books, getting guys up there, talking about the different chapters, finding ways to spend time. And we did paintball. We brought them to Butcher and Rose. We did June Olympics, where we spent time where it was the coaches versus the players. Try to find as many different ways to bring this team together in a short period of time. But I think that's the challenge for a lot of teams this year. When I hear different coaches talk, they're sort of in that range too of new players, and so that's what it's going to come down to in the end. And I think, in today's day and age, we're going to have to figure out ways to get this thing done faster, maybe more than we ever have. I don't think that anybody's there yet. I think there's some question marks just because they haven't done it before. But to me, a position group that's got to have a great preseason is the running back room. I know we have Isaiah coming back. We have Bo coming back. We've added Jacoby. We have Legend. We have Turbo. Okay, we got these pieces. But, if we're going to get to where we need to go, we need a high level of play at that running back position. So this is critical, and both of those guys didn't practice in the spring. So that's one that I got my eye on big time. The good news is they both had very good freshman campaigns, but here's where you got to take the next step. I think about J.K. Dobbins in year 2. He unbelievable freshman year, solid second year, ridiculous junior year, right? And so we've had guys in a program, very good freshman year, and I'm not going to say sophomore slump, but that second year was okay. And then the third year, they turned it on. Well, we can't afford to do that in that room this year. This has got to be a huge year for those guys. So that's certainly an area that we got to get great production from this season. We'll look at everything. I think, if I'm being honest, that would come up in situational football. But anytime you can add the quarterback into the run, it certainly gives us an advantage. That's when you talk about on defense. That's why Jalen's here today. he needs to take that next step because not only the production on the field, but also the communication and getting ready on the same page back there. And Earl will be a big part of that. But Jalen does everything right, but it's a big challenge for him. He's got to be able to do that. And I think on defense, the other big piece of that is going to be Kenyatta Jackson. He's somebody that has, is poised to have a big season for us. I think he's had a really good offseason. But now we got to go put it on the field. And these are guys that we're counting on back there. Yeah. I think when you're at Ohio State, you're going to have those types of things. But we've worked hard to build up a roster to have guys like this. And with that comes great expectations. And we talk a lot about that when we bring guys into the building, whether it's a coach or whether it's a player, that that's why you're here. And I think to your point, when you're chasing those tiny margins of perfection, like you said, you have to identify and be very, very accurate in what you're doing. And then while the season goes on, make the corrections and be very, very pointed. And then for us at times really predict what's coming next. This year, we're going to get really good feedback because we got a very difficult schedule. And so that part I'm excited about. I can't tell you I'm excited to go to Iowa and at Indiana and all these games, at Texas. But, yeah, I mean, that's what being a competitor is, in terms of, we're going to get stronger every single time we play in one of these games. And one thing about our players, you don't come to Ohio State unless you want to play in those styles of games. And you start to get a callous about you. You almost become like the villain when you go into these environments and you come together, you come closer as a team. I think for us, when you look at the schedule, you just get excited, you get fired up because that you have to be on your stuff week in and week out. And both of our coordinators know what that's like when they play in the NFL. They've experienced that, and so our game plan's got to be on point. But we also have to put guys in situations to be successful. I mean, I think we can look to a lot of things, but clearly we came up short. So at the end of the day, we got to focus on what we can control and fix the things that we think we can fix. I think when you're first starting, you're doing everything for the first time, and then after a while, you can find yourself in a Heisman race. You can find yourself doing different things, and you can quickly get distracted on what really matters. I think when you come back for that second year, all you want to do is win. You know that if you win, you're going to have an opportunity to get awards and have an opportunity to get drafted and all those things. And you kind of push all that stuff to the side. I can see that same look in Julian's eye. Not that he was worried about that last year, but just when you're into that year and you're experienced more, all you're worried about is winning. And that's what he's going to be worried about, or focused on. And so the other thing is you've been on the fields, you've experienced ups and downs. You're not going to ride the emotional roller coaster that maybe you would as a young player. You understand when to throw the ball away. You understand time, score, situation, and then how to prepare. And you have a reference point on some of these teams that you've played last year as well. All those things add up. Yep.
When those moments arise this year where maybe you need more possession, you need more plays, how much will it help to have a better player on there, now better starting quarterback, just to shave off a few seconds here and there back?
Yeah, I think when we need to shorten the game, we need to shorten the game. When we need to elongate the game, we do have to elongate the game. And we've had long conversations about that. And so we have to be able to identify what we're dealing with in that moment and then do what's appropriate to win the game. So, we have to have those tools, one, and then we got to utilize them.
This is a guy or
I mean, I do think that Chris has had a very good offseason. I think when you see Chris, you're going to see he's put some muscle on. He's moving really well, so that's exciting. I think the tight end room has made a lot of strides. So there'll be some new players there. Obviously, losing Will and losing Max, so that's been good. Trying to think of other young guys. I think the rest of the young guys will kind of wait and see. Yeah, no, I think we got talent there. And Devin had a very good spring, but we're going to need him to step up in a big way. It's a completely different role. You're going from a guy like IGB who was, the guy who drove that room and had a lot of production, played a lot of football, to now somebody that has a tremendous amount of talent but hasn't played a lot of football. So we've seen it in him. We know that he can do it. We're looking for consistency and somebody that can produce at a high level. But he certainly has the chance to do that. Jermaine is an experienced guy. We need him to play experienced. And that's it. Like those guys that we brought back in those roles, and quite honestly have invested in. I mean, they got to step up in big ways. That's part of the deal. And so he's another one. But the depth that's being created in that room by Tim is going to allow us to play some depth in there, and we'll find out more about that during the preseason. But the more guys we can play there, the more flexibility we're going to have throughout the season, especially when you can move guys inside and play some nickel. Yeah, legend. Yeah. Well, the talent is there for sure. Yeah, you can't deny that. But he got hurt in the spring, so didn't get a chance to finish out and grow because he played quarterback in high school, and now he's learning to play running back and a little bit of receiver. But there's more to it than just talent, and every day is an opportunity to build trust. And he's had a good summer, so there's no question when you see the ball in his hand, he's going to stick out. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're going to tackle this preseason. We have to because we got to get ready, and we got to do a good job, obviously, early in the season. So we're not going to be foolish or reckless, but we're going to tackle. So that'll be one way. And two, just the way that they're going about their business, the way that they're on pass protection, the way they're hitting the hole, the way they're making guys miss in the back end. All those things add up, and you can just tell by their demeanor.
Ryan, when you talk about pace of play, what you guys were last year, that Indiana game, the Miami game, looked like the times that you guys did pick up pace, Julian handled it. Does that give you some excitement or knowing that, like, if we do choose to pick up pace this year, he can handle it pretty well?
Yeah, no, I don't have any question with that, with Julian. I think it's important to understand sort of the evolution of it all. So I'll get into it just a little bit and the pluses and minuses that come with it. I think when, back 20, 30 years ago, we used to get in a huddle, break the huddle, get up, lined up, and then you go play. And then, people started to go no huddle. But what went with no huddle was tempo. And so teams started playing really, really fast. I was a quarterback for Chip during that time and got a chance to be on the front end of that and watch what he did at Oregon. But then they slowed the game down. They slowed the game down a couple different ways through, how they slow the game down with substitutions. They slow it down. If you go out of bounds to your sideline, there's just a lot of ways that the game's played slower now. The second part of that was, what you used to do on offense is you would line up. You guys remember we would have a no play. We'd look to the sideline, and then you try to get into the right play. Well, then what defenses would then do is they would try to recognize your formations, maybe try to recognize your signals, and then they started calling no-huddle defense. So when a defense coordinator can come up and look and see what formation you're in and see where the running back is in a no-huddle offense, it's pretty easy to call, the right defense. So when they went to coach the player communication and allow us to go back to the huddle, as long as we're getting up there with a good enough pace, the defense coordinator has to get the play in, and now it's incumbent upon the players to get them into the right defense or the right play on offense. So there's give and take to all of that. When you watch the NFL, you really don't see anybody playing in tempo or no huddle, and so all of that comes into play, and we have to find the right balance. Now, some teams, that's what they live in. They live in tempo, and they have all the different things that come with that. For us, we want to have the ability to do both. And so we have to figure out what's right in the moment and then utilize it when appropriate.
Ryan, you said earlier that Jeremiah has a chance to leave a legacy.
Yep.
Could you expound on what that would look like, what that would be, what he needs to do to cement that?
I think the first thing is winning 2 national championships in 3 years. I think what he did in recovering from a quad injury and playing in that rivalry game and having a pair of gold pants, man, like I don't think you guys know, he could barely walk early in the week, and he found a way to come in and catch that 4th and 5 or whatever it was. Like, this is a guy who cares about his teammates. And so not only just the production on the field, but the way he goes about his business, the discipline that he has, the what he's set for walking into our program and being an Iron Buckeye as a freshman. Like, all of those things matter. And again, just the way he's handled himself off the field, he's not selfish, but he hates to lose. He puts hard work in every day. And he's the ultimate competitor. I also think the legacy of just who he is in a day and age where everybody watches social media, they play the video game, they know who he is, and just the way he handles himself on a day-to-day basis as a gentleman, high character guy who does everything right. And so you have the on the field and you have the off the field. And we're very fortunate. He's a Buckeye, man. He's done so many great things for us, but I think he wants this year to be his best. I think it's changed. Recruiting has changed, and I think you're seeing that. Just when you look at how recruiting's changed, you see, obviously, NIL has become a part of that, and because of that has changed the landscape of recruiting. I also think the world's just gotten smaller, and for us, like we never used to recruit down towards Alabama and Louisiana, Mississippi. You're seeing our team get more and more guys from that area. And I think a lot of it is that the world's gotten smaller. So guys like Caleb and Quinshawn, and you're seeing James and Quay and Zion Grady. They're coming here and they're realizing, wow, there's a great opportunity here in Columbus. And then we have the resource to be able to do that. So there's great players throughout the country. Our foundation is in Ohio. It always will be, because the players in Ohio grew up being Buckeye fans. They know what it means to be a Buckeye, and they bleed scarlet. But then there's so many great players throughout the country. We can't just recruit Ohio. So it's been great to be able to recruit nationally because we have a brand. But to say that the way that we recruit and how recruiting has been is the same as it's going to be moving forward, and the way it is right now is not true. And so I think you are seeing some of that. It doesn't make it easy. It's very, very competitive, and that's the lifeblood and the foundation of our program. Always will be. Woody Hayes said we win with people. That was a long time ago. Things were done a lot differently back then, and it'll be the same way in 20 years. It's just how do we get there? But certainly the rules have changed.
Adapted your mindset that the 12-team playoff world, where losing, you never want to lose, obviously, but one regular season loss no longer ends your season.
Yeah.
How do you adapt your mindset?
Yeah, the question is like when you had the old system of either 4 teams or 2 teams playing in the national championship, one loss could ruin your whole season. I think that the playoffs has changed that, but I also think like you have the best teams in the Pac-12 now combined with the best teams in the Big Ten, and like now you have 18 teams, and like you're playing monster games year in and year out. So I think that also plays into it. It's not just the number of teams in the playoffs, but it's also the fact that when you look at our schedule, like if we played that schedule, 15 years ago, I don't know what would have happened. So I think we all need to take into consideration that part of it. Having like on our schedule USC, having on our schedule Oregon, having on our schedule Texas, like that makes a difference. That's not the same everywhere. That's not the same schedule as everybody else. And I think that needs to be taken into consideration. So I think there's a lot that comes with it, not just the number of teams in the playoff. Say it one more time, sir. To me, it's always about winning the rivalry game first and then winning a national championship. Now, we want to win the conference, but we want to win the conference to put us in the best position to win the national championship. That's, to me, what the most important thing is, and everything matters. Every single seed matters, every ounce matters, every inch matters. So we are very motivated to win the conference.
You talked about,
Yep.
do you feel more confident now about
I mean, when you have 18 teams the way we do, 9 conference games and one of those, I mean, yeah, that's a monster. I mean, I'd feel better if there was 24 teams in, but certainly better than it was before.
when did you start this shift? That seems like a little bit of a shift. Like, you would put yourself in the best chance of winning a national championship. Team up for the Big Ten national championship.
Yeah.
When did you start to sense, if at all, there might be a shift in that? Of like, the Big Ten championship can do something good for us, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee.
Well, I think when we had 4, it was a huge deal because if you didn't win the Big Ten championship, your chances of getting in were very difficult. Now, it has less of an impact on whether you get into the playoffs or not. Now, what it does impact is your seeding, so that's really important, and we would need every inch we can possibly get. So, like I said, we're highly motivated to win that Big Ten championship.
Hey guys, we got time for 2 more. 2 more.
What was the difference there for you guys in terms of that layoff and getting the first game against LSU and getting the ball rolling compared to Miami having the first game to get that ball rolling and you guys getting it?
Yeah.
Any difference at all?
Well, I did. And we all got to continue to wrap our mind around how we do a better job of that. And when you think about any other sport, that layoff is just not normal. So we have to figure out a way to do a better job of responding to that. I think it's an important deal, and we have to figure out. I thought we had a really good plan going into it, and I don't think we played very well in the first half of that game. And we found ourselves in a hole, and then we ran out of time because we couldn't finish it off in the second half. So do I think we should move up the season and take away that gap? Absolutely. I know that there's a lot that goes with that. I've had conversations with Tony about this. In a perfect world for me, we would move up the season a week. We would push all the games back, but I also know there's the NFL playoffs. There's a lot that comes with all of it. That would allow us to end the season sooner, and then it would allow us to open up the portal and then finish the season, put your roster together, which would all make much more sense to me. But that's college football, so we're going to adapt because nobody cares, and we better figure it out because we're going to be in that situation again, hopefully really soon.
Last one, guys. Last one.
Yeah. If I could just wave a wand and say, here's how you'd love for like the semifinals to be on New Year's and then have the national championship the week after, and then we're done. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good thing. I think because right now you can play in 4 games and you can play in the postseason. So what are we really talking about? And I think now when we have limitations on the number of people we can have on our team, and with NIL, I think it makes sense. If you're going to have somebody on your team, he should be eligible to play. So I think it's 5 for 5 makes a ton of sense. I support it. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Yeah.